Hello and welcome. You're tuned to The Leg Up, your weekly thoroughbred preview podcast, and it's Travis Day at Te Rapa come tomorrow afternoon. But we're missing someone, Steve. That's probably the first thing we need to touch on. Where is he, Paul? Let the side down again.
Well, I think he's at a course, but not the one that's
not the usual.
Not the usual on a Friday. But he'll be back next week, I believe, and a 2-day course for our man Paul Moate.
Okay, very good. Investing in the future there. Now, where were we last week? Easter Day. White Noise.
White Noise rated through the roof. I'll just touch on that later. But a bouquet goes out to Michael McNabb. We've mentioned this jockey a number of times in the last 12 to 18 months, but he clean sweeped the 3 stakes races at Pukekohe last Saturday, including the Easter. He ticked over $4 million in prize money. Aidan Rodley, his manager, tweeted during the week as well. Our first jockey to do that domestically. So $4 million in prize money for Michael McNabb. And he just keeps ticking the boxes. Last 50 rides, he's produced 15 winners at 30% and exceeds the market expectation as well. So, look, just in the last 18 months, it's the consistency around Michael McNabb. Obviously, he's got his life right on track. He's got his diet bang on. And he's got the right people around him, because 4 or 5 years ago it was touch and go where he was going to go in terms of his ceiling as a jockey. But the last 2 years, obviously, he's just hitting a nice little sweet spot in his life and he's enjoying it. And the question has to be asked, what holds in the future for Michael? How long can we keep him here in NZ? And are we knocking on his door, whether it's Australia or Asia, Hong Kong possibly? He'll get his opportunity, no doubt. It's just depending where. But right at the moment, he looks very strong and odds on price to defend his J Premiership. Yeah, 100%. Let's head north and say good morning to Brendan Popple. We love those stories in racing, don't we, BP? Those are redemption stories, and Michael McNabb has a pretty good one.
Yeah, for sure. Good morning, lads. Yeah, he's riding super, isn't he? And yep, he nailed those 3 stakes races. There was 3 of them available, and they were all super rides. And look, tough conditions, wasn't it, out of Pukekohe Park, where we did have the rain that did arrive on the Friday, and it continued to rain throughout the race meeting. And yeah, look, it upset a number of chances. A lot of horses were scratched in terms of late scratchings on the day. But yeah, White Noise was terrific, I thought, in the Easter. And it was a horse who was well placed by Andrew Forsman, and it'd be intriguing to see what they want to do with that horse now. He's shown enough on both sides of the Tasman, even his spring preparation through Melbourne as well. But yeah, good day out. Look, both meetings, all meetings across the land. It was a busy old day, and yeah, it was good to be on track too. Out of Pukekohe Park, there was look, that's been a busy race course, and they've done a super job. I think massive plaudits to them with taking the heavy workload of Ellerslie, and that track really has stood up over the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. We might have some idea about White Noise, Steve, what the plans are, because we had a bit of a request during the week, I believe.
Oh, for Hawke's Bay, yes. Yeah. We had him in the Livermore as we brought up the markets this time last week, but there was a request. I know there's a number of owners there pretty keen to back White Noise in the first 2 legs as well. So from memory, he's roughly $18 for the first leg, and for the Arrowfield, he's at $16, the same quote he is for the Livermore. So yeah, that looks a nice little setup for him, Hawke's Bay. He's adaptable in all track conditions. He puts himself in the race. He's proven at a certain level. He's just got to take that step up to weight for age, depending on who's going to be his rivals. We've got that group of 3-year-olds that will be early 4-year-olds. Which ones head towards Hawke's Bay or go straight to Australia remains to be seen. But nevertheless, I think he's a horse that's been well identified in terms of a 3-leg prone attack. But just on the Easter, look, the race rated really well, incredible in terms of my data through the speed ratings. I mean, they've run 142 and change for 1,600 metres on a heavy track. That's an incredible time, an overall time. In the sectionals, I just had to get a tick of approval by Form Pro, who does them through NZTR, Neil Davis, and I had to question it first time round, but he said, look, the time's accurate. He's gone over the splits of the race and also the overall time, and the rail was in the true position, and the barriers were in a similar position to what it was on Boxing Day when the rail was in the true. So, look, you just got to take it on face value. There's no doubt the winner, White Noise, will regress. He won't hit that strong speed rating next start, because it was just through the roof and almost stood out from where he's been consistently throughout his career. But what you will say is that the market will gravitate towards those top 3 or 4 in the Easter to wherever they head next. So just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, okay. BP, Johnny. Well, let's talk about Johnny. Johnny, he got the job done for you last week as the best bet, and you continue to rise up the ranks there with your ROI.
Yeah, look, he was good, wasn't he? And he was a horse. He found the right race to kick off in, and then it got wet, and it just played into his hands, didn't it? And Jessica Allen, we've seen her ride a couple of good winners on 2 Saturday race meetings recently, and made use of the 4 kilo claim, put him into the race. I like how he actually settled in the run too, because we know he can overdo it, and we spoke to Margaret Carter post-race about that, because he has been in some races when Babylon Burl and a couple of other hot leaders have been in the race, and it's really been the undoing of him. But I like the fact he was in that race and there wasn't any other hot leader in the race, and he got comfortable, and yeah, he really did put them away. So yeah, I don't really know what's about for him coming up over the next sort of little while, but yeah, he proved his value there, and I think he was about $5.50, $6 on opening.
Yeah, he was. He wasn't anywhere near that price at the close. Jessica Allen might be quite dangerous over the next few months, BP, after what we've seen so far.
Yep, for sure. I think so. And then you've got, sort of Tristan Moodley, Donovan Cooper, a couple of jockeys to just keep tabs on over the next probably 6 to 8 to 10, 12 weeks coming up over this winter period, when jockeys can claim 4 kilos. It was about this time last year. Taylor Mitchell, we were talking about her and her claim. She's now just a 2 kilo claimer. So they're going to be important jockeys to look out for. They can position horses up, get them forward and running, and use that 4 kilo allowance in these tricky conditions that we're expecting to get over the next few weeks as we sort of build into our winter racing.
Yeah, exactly. Let's stay with your Pops. Maidener of the Week time. What have you found for us?
Look, really, I think the Avondale meeting produced 2 Maiden of the Weeks. The notable mention is obviously Mr. Mojo Rising. We'll go to this race, though, in the Avondale Classic, because there's a very high chance we might have unearthed some horses that can run in Group 1 races next season. The horse that wins this race is Just a Floozy, who brought all the red-hot trial form, sits outside leader, and look, gets the job done. A horse that will potentially see over those shorter trips early in the spring preparation as a 3-year-old filly. And how can you not be excited about what these horses have done out wide? Orchestral, I mean, are you kidding me? Are you actually for real that horse nearly won the race from where she was? She's a 2-year-old filly by Savabeel. I remember when Prowess won her very first race, and it won by a country mile, and you just went, oh, gee, that's a nice win. Well, can't wait to see her next season. Just feel as though Orchestral's a horse that we really do want to be marking down and waiting for those future markets to come out around those nice races in the spring. And Molly Boom was very good as well into 3rd position, because it was back and running in the same sort of spot to finish into 3rd spot. I think it's a Maiden of the Week race, and yes, Mr. Mojo Rising out of the day was certainly a horse we want to be backing again too.
Yeah, there's a few to follow there, Steve.
Yeah, top 4 or 5 all worth following. Depending on how many starts they have as a juvenile, but definitely as 3-year-olds. Look, the overall class rating was over 2 lengths above standard, and the closing sectionals, but also to the 600, was against open class, but wasn't too far off it. So a red hot 2-year-old maiden. Saying that there was a race winner in the race, but I mean, yeah, overall they were maiden horses. A lot of them were making their debut as well, so a bit more ring craft, but I think the majority might be turned out. Just feel that they'll be turning them out now the tracks are getting a little bit wetter, and maybe bring them back the early part of the spring. But look, I think as BP's alluded, the majority of the card was very strong. You go back to the first race, the Racketeer. I think Sam Weatherly, he maybe just got a little bit cute on the Racketeer. It was too much of a sit and sprint, and he was just flat-footed at about the 350. But look, the sectionals breaking it down showed that as well. I think they went to the 600 over 12 lengths below par, and then they've run home the fastest 600 of the day in the 3-year-old 14 in the first race. So I think the Racketeer were a bit more even tempo in the race and can put bad luck out of the equation going forward, because he's a horse that has tactical speed, will be worth following in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But yeah, overall I'm meeting that you can dive into every single race and find a few black bookers.
Okay, and Molly Bloom as well, but was by Ace High, you said?
Yeah, from memory it might be the first Ace High that's gone around in the country. I know there's been a few that have trialled recently. Obviously he's a son of High Shap, Ace High, and he's just done a fantastic job, High Shap, and leaving Stallions. And you've got to remember, Ace High, even though he was a Derby winner, he was a 2-year-old winner in Sydney. So he was a horse that won a Derby but did have a turn of foot. And the success that High Shap has had in Sons going to stud. You look at So You Think, Toronado, just to mention a couple as well. So Redwood, if you look at domestically, the stallion here. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Ace High kicks a few goals. Not that Rich Hill need another stallion.
No, they're flying, aren't they? Exactly. Righto, team. Let's get to Te Rapa. We've got 4 races we want to preview. Let's talk about track conditions first, Steve. What are we going to be playing on come tomorrow afternoon?
You're currently a soft 5. The rail back in the true position there, that's quite crucial because you go back a couple of weeks to Te Rapa where they had their last meeting on the 15th of April. It was a soft 5 that day, but the rail was out 6 metres and a few horses were just at the back half of the day, second half of the day, were coming 4 or 5 metres off the rail to find the better part of the track. So there'll be a new strip from the rail 6 metres out, and I think that's quite important if you're diving into the form, in particular the first half of the card. Horses that like to be on speed, and we may see an improvement of the track. I don't think there's too much rain forecasted between now and the close of tomorrow. So look, it's soft 5, hoping we might even touch a 4 on the day, which is extremely good this time of the year. But look, BP could probably elude us. You can look out the window and just tell us how the weather is evolving in the last 24 hours. But yeah, look for a possible upgrade, and if we get that genuine 4, I do think it'll be advantageous early in the day to be up and in.
Okay, that's interesting in itself. Let's go to race number 7 on the card, Steve. That's the feature of the day, the Travis Stakes. Over the 2,000 metres for the fillies and mares. We do have a filly here right towards the top of the market. Yeah,
we're doing that second line, but headed by Aromatic, $2.50. Off the original price of $2.70, so some good traction around Aromatic in the first 48 hours of trading. In front of the filly Secura Girl, 380 into 360, so 2 firmers and the 1-2 in betting. So punters very keen at the pointy end. Carmen Line, also not friendless, $10 flat. Town Cry at $11. La Sibilia 12 out to 14. The Perfect Pink, 16 in a turn there to 15. St. Alice, 14 out a couple rolls to 16. Shares the same price as Outback Opal, looking for 4 on the trot. And Lana Call best of the rest with Blue Moon at 26 each of 2. So look, overall summary, best bet runner Aromatic, but Secura Girl, plenty of friends there. Carmen Line solid, and the Perfect Pink, the one that's been spec'd in the middle line.
Okay, Aromatic very good last time. BP coming. Oh, sorry, speed map first, of course. Thank you, gentlemen. How are we going here, Steve? Secura Girl, you would think would be heading forward from barrier 1.
Yeah, we'll talk about the tactics shortly around Secura Girl, but I've got it leading for the majority of the race, and I think that's important. But there is a lot of speed outside from Love for All, Chiambella, who have drawn second, and outside gates. Iridessa likes to go forward, I think, from a sticky gate. They'll try and take bad luck out of the equation in the first furlong or 2. Town Crier will probably let a bit of speed outside to come across and get that 1 out, 1 back position. You've got Outback Opal, Aromatic, St. Alice, also Blue Moon will look to use a gate. They probably sit in that middle range. Carmen Line, I think from a better gate, no worse than midfield, and a few horses there that have low tactical speed, including the Perfect Pink from a wide draw. So I think overall tempo should be even. I don't think it's going to be a crawl and sprint home for this year's edition of the Travis.
Okay, the favourites Aromatic BP 2.5 and well supported. That win in the Manor with 2 breeders looks like she's cherry ripe for this assignment.
Look, she does, and it's sort of a good angle to take, isn't it, going from the Manawa 2 breeders into a Travis Stakes. It's a logical step for many with the couple of weeks in between and the distance of 2,000 metres. So it's the right form line, isn't it? Aromatic's been a horse that I guess you'd always question her on a better surface, and I know you look at the form book and think, well, she's had 13 starts on a good track for 3 wins and 5 minor placings, but she's always been a horse that the stable have spoken about, that she just needs that forgiveness in the ground. And look, really, she ranged up to them and she put them away, and she put them away like a nice horse. This is a step up again, isn't it, with a couple of other different runners in tomorrow's race, including the 3-year-old filly. She's a horse who won a Counties Cup in very wet conditions in the early part of the summer. So she's the clear benchmark in the race with what she's done at her last start, and comes into this as a favoured option. She's a horse who should just camp off them. Yeah, interesting with that speed map, just what happens in terms of Secura Girl. Are they keen to make sure that she's in that position of leading, or do they hand up? Do they try and let her settle in a trailing spot, let something else come across? And because overall she went too hard, didn't she, in the New Zealand Oaks? It was a race where she overdid it. They overdid it just by letting those others into the race, and we know she's better than that. I mean, she finished 7 lengths off them. Well, probably a decent run considering how hard she did go in the New Zealand Oaks, I thought, Secura Girl, but I just wonder what their tactics will be. Will they look to go with what's been stock standard for her, being in front, controlling the race, or do they let something else come in front of her and see if she can relax in a trailing spot? But yeah, on Aromatic, I think she's the one to beat. Where she sits in the market, I guess she's short enough. But I think it's a race between Aromatic and Sakura Girl in terms of their recent runs and their form they bring into the race.
Makes me a bit nervous, BP, that there's the gap between Aromatic and then Love for All, Chiambella, St Alice. They're all out at 20, 30, 40 to 1. And you've got Aromatic at 250. She didn't put a huge margin on them, did she?
No, she didn't. She got the job done, and this is a step up again, as I said, from that Manawatu Breeders to this race. But look, she's just in a happy spot at the moment. There should be enough forgiveness in the ground too. Like, it's going to be bouncing between a 4 or 5. It's going to be a rock hard 4 if it does get to that mark. Like, we've had some very, as we get in this period of the season, cool, cold mornings, and then we've had some really good sort of afternoons with a bit of warmth behind it, and that's how the weather's been here. So you'd imagine there's going to be that right sort of forgiveness to give her that opportunity of really sprinting hard again and giving her chance with Opie Boston aboard.
Yeah, okay. Well, Carmen Line actually beat home Aromatic when they last clashed in the Thoroughbred Breeders Group 1, Steve. So, Carmen Line's promised for a long time. Can she deliver?
We know the ability's there. On this occasion, she probably had a little bit more luck than Aromatic. Aromatic, you see there along the rail, just got held up at a couple of vital times in the last furlong or two where Carmen Line had free air. But at the end of the day, she did beat home Aromatic, and yes, Aromatic's been a subsequent group winner at Aupuni, to reference her form to be the short price fave. But look, at the end of the day, Carmen Line, she's still only won the one race. So in terms of...
Hard to believe, really.
It is, to be honest. We know she, I think from memory, ran third in a Karaka Classic as a 3-year-old, and you just thought as a 4-year-old she could clean up whatever she targets, but it just hasn't really unfolded that way this time. And for Carmen Line, look, she's shown promise, and I don't mind the step up to 1.25 miles. Pedigree would say yes. And she maps ideal with that pressure up front, which we've talked about, around 3 or 4 horses from wideish gate. She can just get in that neutral position and find a spot with a little bit of cover, which is important for a first horse looking to go over ground for the very first time. But in terms of weight and measures, look, she's not ideally off, but again, she was at weight for age against her own sex last start at 1600, and she stepped up to a degree. So overall, this race doesn't hold as many form lines or strong form lines as maybe the Breeders did at 1600. But look, she's getting well backed at $10, and maybe she's the one horse that you could possibly be tempted by 1x2, 1x3 play if you want to look outside the short priced favourites.
Yeah, okay. Right, I want to talk about Sakura Girl to both of you, and the win in the Sunline Vase was obviously very good. Pops mentioned the Oaks, which just didn't fall her way. What are we thinking here, BP? This win was strong, but will Michael McNabb try and potentially look for a little bit of cover here? That could be potentially risky as well.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, the option is there if a couple of other horses do want to come over and really race her, because I'm sure they don't want what happened in the New Zealand Oaks to happen again. If something's going to come over and have a look, well, I'm sure they're going to be very much happy to try and hand up, because as I said, you just don't want to be going as hard as they did in the New Zealand Oaks. If she does travel beautifully in that trailing spot with a good bit of speed up front, look, she's going to be very hard to beat with 53.5 kilograms. We know she races well at this venue. She's won the Sunline Vase, as we see there, 2 starts ago. She ran a really good race, of course, and behind Prowess. Now, Prowess form lines is good. Now, yes, she was 5 lengths off Prowess, but she was a fighting run in behind. And Prowess is different gravy and compared to some of the horses that are competing in this race, with the step up they're having to make from some of their 75 runs, etc. So I think overall she sits in a good spot. I think her price is attractive. There's a couple of options there for her. So yeah, I'm really warming to Sakura Girl. She's a 3-year-old filly, yes. And the last 3-year-old filly to win this race was a horse who went from the Manawatu Breeders to go on and win it, and was with J-Mac aboard, and of course that being Scarlet Lady.
We were having that discussion this morning, only 2 since 2000 or something, Steve.
Bridie Bell back in 204. So
yeah, okay, very good. Well, let's talk about Sakura Girl. What's Michael going to do here from Barrier 1?
Well, I think the danger with Michael, if he elects to take a sit early in running, that he could be shuffled maybe 2-3 back rail, and that's problematic for Michael. Even though she's a filly with a light weight, I don't think she has that turn of foot to get herself out of trouble. She's a horse that likes to grind into her gears, has a long sustaining sprint. So I think Michael will try and hold a spot at least to the first turn. And if that's leading, or at worst taking the trail, but I think he'll try and hold a spot into the back straight, and then if he'll just assess how strong they're going, and then if it's a strong tempo, he'll elect maybe one horse to come across and sit in front of him. If they're crawling or going below even, then he'll be happy leading, obviously. But I just feel Michael will want to hold a position as long as he can to the first turn. And then just assess in the back straight where he sits, because if he gives up his trailing position early, then he may find himself 3-back rail, and as I say, that could be problematic. Okay. But yeah, interesting race. Look, interesting run. I did want to bring up the Sunline Vase rather than the Oaks because the similarities, similar track, or sorry, identical track, similar distance, 2001, the Sunline V, Saturday 2000. But look, if you normalise her win in the Sunline Vase to open class, and allow the 3-year-old weight for age adjustment, she comes out on top in this race. So not by much, probably around about 1.25 lengths in front of Aromatic. So if you're just looking at it on raw figures and then allowing the weight for age adjustment for a 3-year-old, and I think the weight adjustment, what's she carrying, 53.5. At this time of the year for a 3-year-old filly, that's a pretty good weight adjustment for her. It's at the back end of our season, and she's potentially she's getting roughly 4 to 5 kilos off the most of the field. So I assess that there's 2 horses here that are rating 90. Outside that, it's a glorified rating 80. So I'm heading towards the 3-year-old filly because of that. And you've got one of the 2 horses at rating 90 wanting a wet track, and that's being La Savalier. So yeah, just with the weight allowance and what I saw at Te Rapa, I'm leaning towards Secure Girl v Aromatic.
Okay, sounds like BP might be heading the similar direction. The Anzac Mile, horse on the quick backup here, BP Town Crier, and would deserve the shot on the back of this one. It was tough on the line.
It was, and look, this horse, continues to put herself in the race. This is over the 1,600 metres in an open handicap, and she just keeps on giving. She's a horse who, she seems to be adaptable. She can get through whatever conditions are in front of her, if the rain's about, but the forecast is telling us that that's not going to be the case. It's going to be more to that better side of the soft range. But she's in form, and I think when you've got informed mares that are doing the business here, why not roll the dice for $120,000 and step them up over distance to 2,000 metres? And a lot of horses are in that bracket, as we've just mentioned. There's 2 or 3 here that have the rating, and then you've got a lot of horses that are coming out of those 75 races. So, yep, she's worth a shot. She's worthy of her spot. Tactically, it'd be interesting. She's one of those horses that's drawn a middle gate over 2,000 metres. Do they want to sort of just ease and find a spot just away from that on-speed pressure? So, the Perfect Pink's another one. Again, that falls into that category of what are we expecting from the Perfect Pink? We know that she's a Group 1 winner and she's slowly getting back into her form. She was a horse that, of course, was beaten behind White Noise last weekend. In very testing conditions that were not really her liking. I sort of find her as a sneaky roughie in the race. Going to the 2,000 metres, they sort of had to use that run in the Easter to get it to this race for 2,000 metres. So maybe she's one that could be spec'd at a bit of a price on pure class ability. She has that, and her 3rd run in this campaign to 2,000 metres.
Yeah, there has been a little bit of money for it too. The one race replay we want to have a look at before we push on is a horse that's absolutely flying, and that's Outback Opal. Probably snuck her under everyone's guard to some degree, this horse, Steve, but winning 3 in a row is never easy.
No, it's not. She's rapidly going through the grades. This is clearly her biggest test to date. As you say, looking for 4 on the bounce. Look, this race rated well enough for rating 75 class. You had your Durzo finishing just off the top 3 there, and that was a well-backed commodity 7 days ago before scratching in the Easter handicap. Look, not well placed here in terms of weight for age. I'm just wanting to watch this horse go around on a better track. All its best figures have been on rain-affected going. This was on a soft 5, but it was the last race of the day and it had been cut up and they're coming to the outside part. So, look, needs to improve roughly 2.5 lengths just on raw figures to what it produced this day in rating 75 class. And also a lot of its best figures, as I mentioned, has been on a genuine soft, and we're looking on the better side of soft/good tomorrow.
Okay, BP, surmise the race for us. How are you going to be attacking this year's Travis Stakes?
Yeah, I do like Sakura Girl. I think she's at a backable price in the market. So yeah, the $3.60 will do me. Look, I think Aromatic is the obvious one in the race, and the market will tell you that. Away from those runners, maybe Le Sablier and the Perfect Pink are horses that will get me. I want to play them in first fours. I think Le Sablier's run, if you go back to the Zabeel Classic where she was able to finish into 5th position over 2,050 metres, you know, you had horses like Defibrillate, Prix de Feu, Polly Gray, the Mare, they were all in front of her when she finished into that position. I thought her run was very good last weekend when finishing 4th in the Easter Handicap. So she's a horse that's, you know, performed at a good level and maybe can be one of those sneakies for a top 3, top 4.
Yeah, she's got the class BP. She's been there, done that to a certain degree, and some of this field haven't. So I can understand why you've got Le Sablier there in your numbers, but with Sakura Girl as BP, sounds like you think Sakura Girl's going to win this race too, Steve.
Yeah, I do. I think Michael will, as he has done in the last 2 years, will just nail the ride. He'll assess the speed and where he needs to be at the right time, and just with that weight relief, that 3-year-old filly weight relief, it's gold at this time of the year.
Okay, very good. Moving on, team, to race number 5 on the card, the Inglis Sales Cambridge Breeders Stakes Group 3, over the 1,200 metres for the 3-year-old, Steve.
In a bit of a reshuffle
What's happened
in the
here?
market.
Yes.
Ficatero has come out. If you're watching the show live on Friday, was rated a $3.30 chance, so roughly, 24% would have been the old school way of a deduction. Obviously, no deductions playing into our markets at present. So Flamebird heads the market at $3.60 in front of Denby Road at $5 in that second line with Petrucci. Westwood at 6.5. I Choose You, Miss Rocket, $7.50 each of 2. Davichi Bell at 13. Bolshoi Star at 21 with Bourbon Road, and Beep Beep at $31. So look, a lot of support around number 5, Flamebird, even prior to the scratching. And we've had a $1,000 bet also on Denby Road this morning, currently in that second line. So, yeah, a bit of a reshuffle, but now Flamebird at $3.65.
Okay, with speed map time, what have you stitched up here? Well, obviously, Pocatero will still be in this, but was probably not a speed influence in this race.
No, well, it was going to be a sticky gate in a complete contrast to what it found 2 weeks ago, Pocatero. But look, I think they'll go at least even tempo with the stablemates in Westwood and Bolshoi Star heading the map. Who wins remains to be seen. Bolshoi Star has the advantage with the inside gate, but Westwood does like to get on with the job, so it'll be interesting to see which one takes up the lead. But I've got those two as the obvious leaders, 1-2. Miss Rocket gets a gorgeous run, has tactical speed, should trail. Beep Beep also has tactical speed. Petrucci and Flamebird should just camp off that hot tempo. Denby Road, look, drawn barrier 3, but at times, for the majority of a small sample size, has shown low tactical speed. So I'm sure they'd want to use the gate as much as they can, but I just do have it mapped just worse than midfield with Bourbon Road, and I Choose You and Davichi Bell from the wide gates, probably default to the back third. So look, overall tempo, I think above par. The semi-final 2 weeks ago was below par, where Westwood had its own time in front, but I think with the stablemate holding position from an inside gate, it should be genuine.
Okay, looks a good race on paper, BP. We've obviously lost the favourite out of this, but we still want to have a look at Pocatero's last up win, because a few contenders come out of it. I Choose You, Westwood, Petrucci. How are we saying that?
Petrucci.
Petrucci. Okay, very good. So, yeah, look, it was impressive on the eye of the favourite, well, the original favourite, but a few to take out of that race.
I think so, yeah. I really like Petrucci's run. I thought she was a horse that could be a real good improver from this, because she's conceding a lot of lengths here. She's come very wide on the bend, hasn't she? She was a horse that was back and running, and then took a long time to really get into her work, and she was good through the line, wasn't she? So Westwood, yeah, the obvious speed, and surely it's the speed again tomorrow afternoon. But yeah, you've got I Choose You, who finishes on into that second spot, and Petrucci, who just misses finishing into third position. But as I said, through the line, she was a lot better, and I just feel as though with her barrier draw, the chance of camping in a better spot. I'm sort of looking at closes in this race. I sort of want to be around those horses that can close off on those on-speed runners, and I feel as though I want to be with her, because I think she does fall into that bracket, and who's riding the horse? Michael McNabb. Not losing anything there, are you?
No.
By finding a horse you like, and Michael's aboard. So, yeah, I think her 2 wins so far. I was impressed with her maiden victory. Maiden of the week. She backed it up by winning again next time to the races. She seems to be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, she certainly does. Another horse heading in the right direction would be Flamebird, Stephen. It's now favourite in this race. What happened? Odds-on favourite, beaten by Little Who's Got Moves.
Yeah, what this doesn't show, it shows the last 450 odd metres, but it was tardy out of the machine from an inside gate and was roughly 1 or 2 lengths off the last horse, or second to last horse, once they jumped. So it found itself in a sticky position on the map. Look, I'm not 100% convinced it would have won. I thought the winner was holding it in the concluding stages, even though it had to do a little bit of work to get itself into the strike zone. Flamebird, as you say, it was a short priced fave, so you can respect the SP going forward. Look, I think it does start fave. Obviously, it's got a different form line to the semi-final 2 weeks ago, where the majority come out of being beaten by Picatero. But look, she's got upside, obviously. She doesn't need to find anything in terms of figures now that Picatero's scratched, and she maps ideally in barrier 4. She can just stalk the speed. Craig will have options there. Craig Grill's doing the riding with options, and depending on when he takes off and blends into the race. But she's probably the map horse when you'll have the likes of Bolshoi Star with Sam Spratt aboard and Westwood with Billy Pinn. Yeah, like I say, she can just track that speed with Grills on, and he can opt on when to go and when not to go, depending on the tempo.
Okay, another horse with a different form line, BP, is Denby Road, who has competed in some good races. I think this is the trial, is it, where it finished second?
Yes, behind Aodi, who runs this afternoon out of Rotorua. So good trial from him. Look, we know he's a big fella. He really does get into his work late in the piece, and good trial. I like him past the line here as well. Watch this trial, sort of what he was doing after the line, and he was very strong through it and when pulling up as well. So all good signs from Denby Road. He's had a good break. Of course, they tried to get in towards the New Zealand Derby. It was a race where his last competed was at this venue when he was beaten over the 2,000 metres in the Waikato Guineas. If they do go really hard here and he doesn't get too far off them, he's got a barrier draw of 3. Be interesting what they want to do tactically. I think they just want to try and get him comfortable. He might be worse in midfield, but he can put the big strides in, and if he gets the right sort of fresh air in the race and can really bounce off that hot speed up front, look, he can be a player here. He definitely can, and he is an absolute must for trifectas and first fours. I'm expecting him to explode first up, Denby Road, so I'd be very wary.
Denby Road, Steve, back to 1,200.
Be a good training feat. One heck of a training feat. What we talked about 3 or 4 weeks ago was still eyeing it, well, not 3 or 4 weeks ago, but at least a couple of months ago, was targeting a derby. Last seen, as BP mentioned, in the 2,000 metre race at Waikato in the Guineas. Yeah, I think it's all about the race shape and where he maps is his best chance. I always go back to that race in, I think, the middle part of December, BP, where he finished third and behind Wild Knight in a very similar setup, 1,200 metres for 3-year-olds at Te Rapa on a reasonable track, and he got back in a sticky position. Sam got the luck splits and was really rattling home, and I think that's a similar setup to what he finds on Saturday. I think they'll just have to rely on a little bit of luck. Look, this horse was going to be targeting a 65 next week, but they've just opted to roll the dice, come up against stakes horses and try and take a bit of prize money, because this really is the last stakes race for 3-year-old sprinters this season in New Zealand. So don't take too much in the jockey inquiries here, because you had Sam Weatherly, who's been on this horse for the majority of its career. Now, Sam was booked originally for Miss Rocket, and Denby Road, as I mentioned, was aiming for next week, but they've rolled the dice, they've put it in here. They've got Ryan Elliott, as we know, as the Group 1 rider of the season thus far, so doesn't lose anything there. But yeah, always just go back to that form reference in behind Wild Knight. I think if he can run up to that level and get the same amount of luck and tempo, he's definitely a top 3 chance, BP.
You're right, and of course that's the race where Davici Bell was really unlucky, wasn't it? If we remember rightly, that was the horse who was back on the inside and was looking for room. It was one of those races where there was a number of different angles to look at, and I sort of have that race in mind as well for how he's going to perform here tomorrow. And if he can get the right splits at the right time, and he can definitely run into the money, and he could be a late charge trying to win the race. Look, his preparation, as we know, we go back to some of those races out of Pukekohe Park. They've gone back on him in races where he sort of had some sticky barrier draws, and hoping to really boom home down the long straight. And he was getting home in those races. Uderzo was a horse that did beat him. Boxing Day in a 65 from memory as well. So look, he's bumped into some pretty handy types with the way that he's been progressing. So he just needs that raw speed up front and a posse where he's sort of midfield one off, and if he gets that chance to get rolling and get that big frame rolling, he certainly will be in the fight.
What about Davici Bell then, BP? Probably best to be considered as well then.
Oh, ugly map, isn't it?
It's been a costly exercise backing Davici Bell.
I knew I'd get
say that much. Yeah, look, she's been beaten in 2 midweek races out of Matamata, and I still sort of look at both of those races and can't believe that she's been beaten. They've been narrow defeats. Boy, she was booming home last start, wasn't she, when she finished into 3rd position. She was unlucky. She has got to turn a foot. Now, she's got a barrier draw of 10, which makes it difficult for her. She's had 2 very good draws at her last 2 starts. I think she's drawn the inside gate in both of those occasions when she's been beaten in midweek company. May not be a bad thing for her, though. I don't mind seeing her trying to get home down the outside as opposed where she's been sort of locked up on the inside. If there is that right sort of tempo, she tracks the right horse into the race from about the 600, 400 metre mark, 500 metre mark. She might be a horse that can finish in the money, Davici Bell. I think she's more than capable with what she's showing us this season. This is a good race. We've mentioned a lot of horses here that could be finishing home over the top. So, yeah, it sort of sets up as the race of the day for me. Yes, the Travis Stakes is the Group 3, and it's $120,000. Sort of identified 2 strong chances in that race. Here, I feel as though there's a lot more chances, and I think we're going to have a good race in front of us in terms of the spectacle.
Yeah, we haven't even looked at the trial of Bolshoi Star and Miss Rocket as well, and look, they both look like they're on track for this assignment, Steve.
Yeah, I thought it was a good trial, in particular the 3rd horse. I thought the 3rd horse, Miss Rocket, trialled a touch better. And then Bolshoi Star, you see they're up against the rail. The winner raced last week and performed okay in this particular trial. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Miss Rocket and performing better than out of these 2 horses coming into tomorrow's assignment, purely because it has the draw. I think they can trail and stalk the speed here with Sam Weatherly aboard. She's very much an unknown in this race because she's lightly raced, 3 starts, can't knock her, a couple of seconds and a win next to her name. Marshy turned her out, has brought her back, as you see, 1 trial leading in. She just gets that soft run. I think she can run above betting expectation. You see there, roughly around about $7.50 on the back of the favourite being scratched this morning. Yeah, I think she can run a drum and definitely run the first 2 or 3 because of where she maps. But look, I'm leaning towards Flamebird as my top selection. Yep. I actually had Pukatiro as my best bet of the day, but unfortunately that's not going to be seen today. She'll have to keep because she's an elevated temperature. But look, I'll default back to Flamebird in now a very competitive race, but I do think number 11 can run above betting expectation.
Okay, that's interesting. BP, which way will you be attacking it? There can be a bit of movement in these markets when we lose a favourite out of it.
Yes, and I think this market will continue to move. I think there's some middle market prices here that the punters will be keen to sort of snaffle up. So what am I hoping for here? I'm hoping for a strongly run 1200 metre race where there's going to be that right pressure up front and try and give those horses that are going to be midfield or even further back the right opportunity. I'll go with Petrucci because of how the horse ran here 2 weeks ago, with how she was good through the line. Big dangers in the race, certainly Denby Road and Davici Bell are the horses that I'm very mindful of if that speed eventuates.
Okay, guys, race number 6 on the card, Cambridge Equine Hospital, 1400 metres, Steve. The Open 14, quite a compressed market here.
We've gone with Tavia Faye, $4.50. A lot of that surrounds her figures and overall record at Te Rapa, but she heads the market at 4.5 in front of Patura at $5. Maria Farina, best bet runner in this race. Opened $5.50, got out to $6 firm, right back into $5.50. Clearly the best back run in the last 12 hours is number 7. Aotea Lad also a firmer, a 6 into 5.5. Arish at $10 from the original price of 9. The Fearless one also a similar profile to Arish, 9 out to 10. A Helena Baby 11 out to 13. Miss Cartier bouncing between 14 and 15, and best of the rest is Just Ask Me at an $18 price. So look, overall summary, your firmers, Maria Farina, who's just ticked into $5, and Aotea Lad at $5.50. So Maria Farina, the fluctuation on this morning has been $6 into 5.
Okay, BP, this is a competitive race, and look, the 2 of the top 4 contenders competed last time. Aotea Lad won the race, Puntura resumed, and there was a lot of money for the horse. Probably a little bit disappointing on the eye first up.
Yeah, I guess so. Look, the horse can win second up. We know the horse has been able to perform here at this venue this season, Puntura, with a placing in a J swap at Group 3 level over 1,400 metres. So, look, yeah, I guess on the face of it, I am happy to forgive to say that he can improve off this. He's going to need to, because Aotea Lad was good in winning, and has Jessica Allen aboard once again and brings it back to 52 kilograms. So he looks like he's found some of his old form again, because he's a runner that was a very good 2-year-old, and now a 6-year-old. He's rediscovered himself. You could say he's a little bit like Sean Johnson. He's a horse. How good's he going? So yeah, look, he's a runner that is going to be in the right spot with a good barrier draw. This is a tough race, though. Oh lordy, this is a race where you could pick a few runners here. I think Maria Farina is an interesting one, isn't it? Because they were keen to have a shot at the Easter, and of course it rained over 1,600 metres, and they decided to pull pin. There's money about. We know how good she is, and the ability and the prospects they think of her going forward. So, yeah, hard race, very hard race.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can understand the money from Maria Farina, and there was money for her in the Easter, even from a wide gate. But look, you've gone with Tavere, Steve. I'm going to say it's slightly in and out type, but when right, when conditions are right, can produce something like this.
Yeah, well, she's been in and out, no doubt, this time in. She's very consistent last season, but she just has a knack of performing at her best on this track. And you see here 2 starts back, class rating, no knock whatsoever. They've run at a true tempo, which she will like over 7 furlongs. This was over 1,500 metres, so she's just dropping back in trip ever so slightly to what she did when last seen at Te Rapa. But look, she maps okay. Again, she has the services of Michael McNabb, which we've spoken many a times thus far this show. So there is plenty of ticks around Tavere. It's just how confident you want to dive into that price, knowing that she has been in and out, and how much you want to rely purely on the Te Rapa key line. So, yeah, whether she starts favourite, the market's probably identifying no, and she may start around that second, third line. But yeah, it's quite compressed in the top 3 or 4. So, yeah, it's a bit of a dart job where it's going to find itself tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, all indications, BP, are as perhaps the horse you mentioned, Maria Farina, could actually challenge for favouritism here, because that third in a flying handicap was good, and the form's been rock solid over the last 4 or 5 runs.
Look, it has been, hasn't it? And this horse is really built nicely, got some consistency going, and we all saw how good she was when she was able to win. Of course, the Lightning at Trentham 2 starts ago, she just burst out of the pack, and that's how you've got to ride her, and that's when it becomes, look, a difficult horse to back with true blue confidence, because she's always going to have to be saved up for that one last run, and the race shape has to be in her favour, and all those sorts of things. So at times you're going to be backing Maria Farina, and you're going to be getting a run like that where she finishes 3rd or 4th, because either those that are closer to speed can sprint, or those that get the right runs closer towards the rail. So look, that's going to happen, and that's why you're always sort of hoping you get that $5 or $6 on a horse like her, because you're happy to back her at that type of price with just sort of the percentage play that she is in the run. So she's drawn in barrier number 9. She'll be looking for that right sort of speed. It's a little bit like Tavere, really. Tavere's sort of similar, isn't it? Tavere's got the outstanding track record stats here at Te Rapa. So they might be booming home both at the same time. I really like the progression of Maria Farina, and I think she's the one that I'm leaning towards.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of customers so far. Look, there's a really interesting runner here, Steve, just down on the page here. The Fearless One, back from obviously overseas and trialled up pretty well for this.
Probably one of the more intriguing runners on the day at Te Rapa, the Fearless One. Obviously 1400, very short of its best. We know he's a Cups horse, and look, he hasn't been seen for, it'll be 320 days come tomorrow. We haven't seen this horse to the races. Obviously this is a trial, he gets a little bit busy, he runs nicely into second, and just off the wrong leg there at the 100 metre mark, but dives into second late. Nice piece of work for a horse that probably be hitting his PB at 1.25 miles and beyond. Not sure what his plan of attack is. Maybe Brisbane if he performs well in his next 2 starts. But look, I thought from the barrier draw he might get. Yeah, he'll probably be back in that second half of the division. But gee, I thought he wasn't the worst bet. He probably pays more than $10. He might get into that mid-teen price, depending on whether the stable give him a bit of a lead or not. But again, he's one horse I wouldn't be leaving out of the top 4, the Fearless One. He has a class edge over a few of these horses. We know he's performed at group level over in Brisbane, albeit, yes, I know, I concede staying trips, but I thought he's one horse that could run well fresh, the Fearless One.
Okay, you haven't got any replays of York or Newbury here for me to have a look at Marajan at $16. Any money for it, Steve? Interesting runner.
No, there isn't. We got a little bit of a guide 7 days ago. It was also accepted for our pony in the Anzac Mile. Look, he's probably wanting 2,000 plus, but look, he's a horse that we just want to see a little bit more data on. Again, it's a punting stable, but we yet to see a decent amount of coin for the 5.
Okay, I heard you so suggesting that the Fearless One might be worth a little gold coin each way as well, BP, from the way you were umming and ahhing there.
Oh, look, I think stayers first up at a sprinting distance are always horses that you can get at a big price and should always be respected. You know, good classy stayers can run a big race fresh up. Look, we all know the sort of races, you know, you start talking about Foxbridge Plates and, you know, Mudgeway / McPhee / whatever it's called now, you know, those type of races, you can see you get those sprinters, the staying types run big races, and look, he is a good stayer, and he might be able to run a big race for you. He might be a sneaky top 4, maybe. He might be one of those sort of horses that can finish in the top 4. So, yep, overall, I'll go with his, I think his stablemate is his biggest danger in the race, actually, Puntura. So I'll go with Maria Farina and Puntura, the 2 that I'm sort of looking at this stage.
Yeah, okay. Look, Puntura is going to run better than that. He probably needed the run, probably 1,200 short of his best as well, so no knock on him, absolutely. Who you got on top, Steve, just quickly?
Oh, probably Maria Farina.
Okay.
I think they made the right decision scratching last week on a wet track when unproven at a mile, so 1,400 is his sweet spot, or her sweet spot. So, look, the likes of Puntura ATL Lad, they are well off in the weights compared to last start when they ran at Te Rapa ATL Lad winning because of the presence of the likes of Just Ask Me in the race. So, yeah, even race.
Yep, very even race, no doubt. Okay, last race we're going to quickly have a look at, race number 2 on the card, Cambridge Raceway, 3-year-old mile. Steve, run us through this market.
The Accidental Tourist has been well supported, $4.80, but remains the original quote. In front of In Her Presence at $5.50. He's beset, last start winner at the Bay for Tony Pike, Michael McNabb combo at $6. Shares that third line with Collateral Damage. Fellini at $6.50 from a sticky gate. Amino's an interesting runner. It's also dual accepted for this race and the last, so intriguing to see where that finishes off in terms of a race. Amino, the only other runner in single figures. Texas at 12, Rudyard at 14 with Desert Island. Best of the rest is Bourbon Cheek at $21. So, yeah, best bet runner, best lead I can give. The overall summary sits with number 4, Accidental Tourist, with betting profile of Opie Bosson and Mark Walker.
Yeah, a lot to like there, obviously, BP. And look, did it on a firmer track last time out at Awapuni and probably surprised a few. And if it could do it once, why can't it do it again?
Gee, this was massive. This was massive this day with how this horse won this race, because how many lengths was he conceding at the start? I mean, he flopped out of the gates and just thought, well, that's his chances done. And then you start watching the racing. Hang on, is it the same horse? Yeah, he did set it is. Accidental Tourist. That was a massive win when missing the start like he did over the 1,400 metres. So Look, he's been a horse that has shown the talent. He's just won the couple from 8 starts. Accidental Tourist. I know he's been one of those horses that they sort of identified at the early part of the spring that he could be able to do something and peel something off in terms of some of those bigger races. But yeah, that was a huge effort. I think this is a race where we will see if something really springs out of the ground or if a couple of horses run well up to expectations. Look, maybe there could be a Brisbane trip here for a couple of up-and-coming 3-year-olds. Another one I want to talk about, In Her Presence. Hasn't this horse just wins like a good horse, doesn't it? When the day she won, what was it, at Matamata, and she won, and boy, I thought, gee, this horse has won like a $2 shot. She went around paying $40. Just charged to the front and just kept on running and won by a margin of 2.5 lengths. Then did it next time to the races with how she won out of Avondale, beating home Collateral Damage. I know the one that you did like in that race as well, Stephen, who's finished into 2nd position. I'm really interested to see what she produces in this race because, man, her couple of wins have been awesome.
Yeah, the win, Steve, at Avondale, I think we've got it here. Collateral Damage, the one you liked, and then He's Beset, who ran 6th in the race, has come out and franked that form since. So this could be quite a strong form race.
Yeah, well, as you say, I was very keen on Collateral Damage. I think from memory I made it my best of the weekend and ran 2nd. And what I like to do is review and see if I missed anything on obviously the winner here, because I was a little bit surprised it did the job, but the way it won and the arrogance it showed in that performance, I had to go back and see if I missed anything from its Matamata victory, and I did. I just dead set clear missed it. It was very good on the eye. The SB put me off maybe a touch when heading to Avondale. As BP, it started around roughly about 40 odd bucks, but it was a strong speed rating. She did it from the front at Matamata, and she backed it up at Avondale in a similar profile. She jumped, put herself against the paint, and led all the way. And I've got her on top in this race. I'm thinking that the stable are hoping Brisbane. What trip she gets, I'm not too sure. I don't know about the pedigree a huge amount, being by Churchill, US bred. So, again, from barrier 9, I don't mind wide gates for a horse that likes to be on speed. They can come across at their own volume and their own timing and put themselves in the first 2 or 3. I think early in the day, being race 2, I don't think it'll be a negative to be on speed. There might be a little bit of contest in terms of speed, but this thing can sustain it. It hasn't gone out and been crawled in sprint home at Matamata and also Avondale. So, yeah, I really like her. I missed her last start, unfortunately, and I backed against her, but I'm with her here, and I'm slightly going away from Collateral Damage this time. And
well, I'm going to climb on Collateral Damage now. It's going to be that's a dead set winner. He's
terrible menu.
Yeah, exactly. Revelling in the misfortune of others, BP. You know me. Look, He's Beset here. Pops at the Baylock. Came at 6th in that race prior, but then came out and won well here.
Look, he did, and he was a horse I thought he would have won a maiden sort of about 4 or 5 starts ago, and I think it was at Rotorua, and he was disappointing on that occasion, just sort of cluttered up around horses, and then he got the job done down at Trentham, and then he's done it here on this occasion, and he was good through the line. He got a sweet trip in the race, and he was able to burst between runners. He's Beset, and look, he might be again one of those horses if he really does perform that they might be looking at some loftier goals. So it's a nice race. I want to throw one out here at a bit of a price in the race, and it's Texas, runner number 3. It's a horse that's got Sam Spratt aboard, and as we know, she's picked up a Group 1 winner recently, and she's riding really, really well. And this horse is Strawn Barry, number 3, was a horse that, of course, we know was beaten in the New Zealand Derby. Just might be able to produce something at a bit of a price, sitting at $12. I'm with In Her Presence, but certainly I've got Texas in the numbers somewhere.
Yeah, okay, and you took Fellini out last time too, and it was a winner that day at Pukekohe BP, so you found us that one at around $7. Any time for Fellini here? Carries top weight, obviously.
Yeah, look, the reason why I liked Fellini in that race, because I just thought the things set up nicely for him in terms of where he drew and things like that. Look, he's got a sticky gait. If In Her Presence is going forward, maybe there's a chance for Jessica Allen to sort of tag along and get into a position of outside leader. He was really good in that race, wasn't he? Because Paul the Wine was a horse who was flush 3 wide, and he's just come out of the pack late, out of the trailing spot, and come across heels and got up on the line. So, yeah, maybe he's found that better 2-year-old form again from last season with what he's done in his last couple of starts. So, yeah, certainly wouldn't be wanting to risk him. It's a good race. There's a bit of depth through this race.
Yeah, there is. So you were In Her Presence, sorry, just to surmise.
Yep. Yep, in her presence and a little bit of Texas, maybe top 4.
A little bit of Texas there. It sounds like a power play to me. Steve, it sounds like you got in a presence on top as well.
Yeah, I'll go over in her presence. Yeah. Hopefully she can reward me after missing out last start. Yeah, she just takes bad luck out of the equation, and figures don't lie. She's been rating very strongly and just needs to replicate what she's produced last 2 starts. Accidental Tourist, I know Opie will be right on his game in the machine. He'll know this horse's flaws and what its performance last 2 starts, missing the barriers. Just needs to find that back half of the field. It doesn't need to jump with them, but if it can find that back half of the field, it's got the turn of foot. So, and Armino, I just don't want to rule out. The numbers didn't lie. It bet some useful horses home when breaking maiden class. I think it's a fraction better right-handed. I just saw it was a little bit green left-handed in its first 2 runs before it's winning its maiden. But just keep an eye. I wouldn't leave it out of whatever race it contests in, whether it's this race or in the last on the day.
Okay, that is good information because we didn't mind Armino last time, did we? Okay, best bet time, boys. BP, you're a man. Mr. Johnny, kick us off. What have you found for us?
So I've gone to the last race at Eagle Farm, in fact, and that being the Queensland Guineas. Gee, I really like this horse. It is the Queensland Derby favourite, and Kovalaika. This is a runner that produced a super run first up. If you need to go back and just check it out to refresh the memory bank, it was out of Randwick on the 8th of April, and you'll find a horse sizzling home into 3rd position over 1,400 metres when J-Mac was aboard. Nasharilla is aboard from a sticky barrier to draw in barrier number 11, but as we know, Eagle Farm, big long straight, and look for him to be putting in the big bounds. He's at $2.30.
Very good. Gone to the Eagle Farm. BP, what have you found, Steve?
I was keen on Pukatero. Unfortunately, we'll just have to wait another day for her. But look, there's a horse here starting, just looking on the website, starting at Ipswich today in race 4, Cause Vite for the O'Sullivan Scott stable. As I mentioned, just comes out of a very strong maiden race last start in behind Armino. It was hitting all its best sectionals late and through the line, Cause Vite. So it's in race 4 at Ipswich today, over 1,700 metres, a few scratchings, so the draw is respectable, and barrier 8 where it was originally double figures. Look, I think they're trying to get this horse into a derby, so it'd need to be winning this to boost its prize money and to get into some stakes races. So, but Cause Vite, I like the horse, not just for today, but also Queensland.
Okay, so our thousands of live viewers, Friday viewers, are going to get that best bet, and then the tens of thousands that watch us on Saturday morning are going to miss out, aren't they? So it pays to watch live on Friday afternoon, Friday morning. There you go. There's the incentive. Righto, team, we're going to wrap it up. It's poll time, Twitter poll time. We've had to take Pukatero out. We've got Egyptian Queen to Rapa Race 3, Aromatic to Rapa Race 7. We Will Rock Hastings Race 3. Don Paulie was very eye-catching last start. Hastings Race 4. Leave a comment on underneath the have a vote. Leave a comment. You'll be in the chance to win a $100 bonus bet. Last week's winner at Brendan Popplewell. No, it was not. At It's Our Year Was. So sorry, a bit of confusion there. I thought it was BP. No, It's Our Year Was got the $100 bonus bet last week. Leave a comment on the Twitter poll. Bonus bet Blitz is in play. Hastings, Te Rapa, Rosehill and Sandown, I believe. So bonus back Blitz as well. And BP, here's a promo right up your alley. Warriors double up promo. I'm sure you might have sniffed it out.
Yes, so if you put $53 on the Warriors, which at their current price is $2.85, you will get back $100 in bonus bets. So that is the minimum that you can spend on the Warriors there to be able to get that $100 in return in bonus bets. So yeah, check it out. It's the Warriors Double Your Winnings. They play on Sunday, of course, out of Mount Smart. Bonus back Blitz there, as you mentioned. So yep, they'll have a full house with just how unlucky they were, of course, in their defeat against the Melbourne Storm. Let's hope they've got the right how should we say this? Administration there for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm glad you've done the maths for us too, Pops. We better get out of here. Thanks. Where are you tomorrow? Where are you? You won't be on course, will you?
Yes, yep, we're on course tomorrow. That's our last one for the season. So we'll be at Te Rapa with Leith Innes, bringing you all the action from there. So yeah, can't wait. So yeah, some good racing there and as I said it during the podcast or during today, there's a lot of horses that are potentially looking at trying to get to Brisbane, and no doubt we'll see that unfold over the weekend. So yep, should be a good day.
No, thanks for your efforts as always, Pops. Enjoy tomorrow. Enjoy tomorrow, Steve. Have fun.
Yep, I'll be in the office.
Yeah, very good. I'll see you there.
See you there.
And we'll see you next week in 7 days' time on The Leg Up.